Carrick paced nervously in his private quarters aboard the starship Crystalline Dawn. His ship, the pride of his fleet, had just been attacked again by space pirates. This wasn't just any raid, it was a full-blown assault, and they were getting bolder with each attack. The pirates wanted something, but no one knew what. Carrick was running out of options, and the valuable artifact he was carrying was now in serious danger. The artifact, an ancient relic from a long-lost civilization, had the potential to make Carrick a fortune. But lately, it had become more of a burden. The pirates had been targeting him specifically, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could hold them off. His ship's defenses were strong, but the pirates had been getting clever, finding ways to bypass his security measures. He needed a solution. Fast. He turned to his advisor, a creature named Freak, a tall insectoid alien with 6 arms. Freak had been his trusted right hand for years, but even he was starting to look worried. "We need a new strategy," Carrick said. "The pirates are relentless. We can't keep outrunning them." Freak clicked his mandibles thoughtfully before replying. "There is a possibility, Carrick. There is a race known for their resourcefulness. Humans." Carrick froze. "Humans?" He spat out the word like it was something distasteful. "You can't be serious. They're unpredictable, dangerous. Do you really think humans can stop pirates?" Freak nodded slowly. "They have a reputation, Carrick. You've heard the stories. Humans fight with a kind of desperation. They are hard to kill. They're also willing to take risks. They could be the answer." Carrick didn't like it, but he knew he had little choice. The pirates were becoming more organized, and every day that passed, the risk to the artifact, and to his wealth, grew. If humans were his only option, he'd have to deal with them. Reluctantly, he agreed. "They'll be here tomorrow," Freak said. The next day, Carrick stood on the docking bay, arms crossed, watching as the humans arrived. They were not what he expected. The first to step off the shuttle was a human man with dark, messy hair and a stern face. He looked like he had been through countless battles. His eyes scanned the area, calculating, almost cold. Behind him, the rest of the crew followed. A woman with an array of weapons strapped to her body, a tall, silent figure carrying a bulky rifle, and a small man who seemed to be fiddling with a strange gadget. They didn't look like mercenaries. They looked like survivors. Carrick's first impression wasn't good. These humans were too rough around the edges. They were disorganized, unpolished, and their clothes looked more suited for a junkyard than a space vessel. But there was something about them that was undeniable. They had a kind of energy, a confidence that Carrick didn't often see in his own kind. The human captain, the man with the dark hair, stepped forward. He extended his hand in greeting, but Carrick hesitated before shaking it. The captain grinned, revealing a set of sharp teeth. "You hired humans. Have you lost your mind?" The captain joked, his voice deep and gruff. Carrick didn't know whether to be offended or impressed. "Let's hope you're right about this," Carrick muttered, trying to hide his skepticism. "Don't worry," the captain said, his grin never fading. "We've got this. You just focus on the artifact, and we'll handle the pirates." Carrick wasn't convinced, but he had no choice. He led the humans to the command center, where his alien crew watched them with suspicion. Carrick could sense the discomfort in the air. Humans weren't exactly popular in this part of the galaxy, but right now, they were his best shot at survival. The captain gave a quick nod to his crew. "Let's get to work," he said, and without waiting for anyone else, he began to walk toward the ship's weapons bay. Carrick couldn't help but watch them go. The humans were confident, even reckless, but something about them made him feel uneasy. He had never trusted them, but now, with his back against the wall, he had no other choice but to hope that they were right. The days that followed were tense. Carrick watched closely as the human crew took over the Crystalline Dawn, their presence making the alien crew uncomfortable. The humans were different, rough, direct, and brimming with an energy Carrick didn't fully understand. He had hoped for something a bit more polished, but he had to admit they were getting things done. Captain Jax, the human leader, wasted no time. He immediately took charge, ordering his crew to work on the ship's defenses. The alien crew grumbled, unsure of what to make of the humans, but they had no choice but to follow orders. The human mercenaries had a confidence that was hard to ignore, even for the proudest of Carrick's crew. Carrick stood at the observation deck one afternoon, watching as Jax and his team moved swiftly through the ship's corridors, preparing for the inevitable pirate attack. They were nothing like the elite mercenaries Carrick was used to. They didn't walk with the calm, calculated steps of trained warriors. Instead, they seemed more like a band of misfits, getting the job done by sheer will and stubbornness. "What do you think, Vreek?" Carrick asked his advisor, who had been standing beside him. Vreek clicked his mandibles nervously. "They are unusual, but they seem effective." Carrick watched as Jax barked orders at his crew. The sniper, a woman with short, spiky hair, was already on the ship's outer deck, testing a new long-range weapon. The engineer, a wiry man with glasses, was in the control room, hacking into the ship's security system to boost its defense capabilities. And the fourth, a quiet giant, was in the cargo hold, running simulations with the ship's weaponry. "They don't look like much," Carrick muttered, "but they seem to get things done." Vreek didn't respond right away, his many eyes focused on the humans working below. "I can't tell if I'm impressed or terrified." As the days passed, Carrick began to see more of the humans' methods, and his respect for them grew, albeit slowly. Jax's crew was anything but predictable. They didn't follow traditional tactics. They made their own rules. When a pirate scout ship tried to sneak up on the Crystalline Dawn, the human sniper, whose name was Ava, didn't wait for orders. She saw the ship's shadow on the radar and immediately took action. Ava climbed to the highest point of the ship, her sniper rifle ready. She didn't aim for the scout's engines or weapons. She shot the hull directly, sending out a signal that made the pirates panic. "That'll make them think twice," Ava had said, shrugging as she lowered her weapon. "It's not about taking them out. It's about making them second-guess their next move." Carrick had expected a direct fight, but Ava's approach had left him stunned. The pirates, realizing their stealthy attack had been detected, retreated. Carrick had never seen anything like it before. Meanwhile, the engineer, a man named Sam, had been busy installing new shielding around the ship. Carrick had thought it was a waste of time, until he saw how quickly the new system worked during a practice drill. Sam wasn't the typical technician Carrick was used to. He didn't work with smooth precision or follow the expected procedures. Instead, he made it up as he went along, adapting to whatever problem came up. It was chaotic, yet somehow it worked. And then there was the giant, whose name was Ray. Ray didn't speak much, but he was always there, doing what needed to be done. He was a quiet presence, lifting heavy crates, testing the ship's weapons, and making sure everything was in top shape. Carrick could see the way the human crew worked together. They were a team, in the truest sense of the word. They didn't care about rank or formalities. They just did what was necessary. One evening, as Carrick watched from the observation deck again, he saw the entire human crew gathered around the ship's command table, discussing their next move. It wasn't a formal meeting, and it wasn't anything like Carrick was used to. There was no hierarchy, no one giving orders and others following them. It was more like a group of people who trusted each other, working together toward the same goal. Carrick felt a strange mix of respect and disbelief. These humans had no formal training, no military background, yet they were handling everything better than Carrick ever could have imagined. They were unpredictable, but in their unpredictability lay their strength. As Jax caught his eye from across the room, he offered a brief smile. "Don't worry, Carrick," he said, his voice steady. "We'll get through this. We always do." Carrick couldn't help but feel a little reassured, even if he didn't fully understand it. Maybe humans weren't so bad after all. The calm didn't last long. The crystalline dawn had been making its way through a dense asteroid field, hoping to take a shortcut to their next destination. It was a dangerous route, but the pirates had been hunting them for days. Carrick figured the risk was worth it. He never expected that the pirates had been waiting for them, lying in ambush. As the ship passed through the dense asteroid belt, the sensors began to flicker. Carrick frowned and looked at his crew. "Something's wrong," he muttered, leaning closer to the control panel. The readings were off. Too many small ships moving around them. Ships that weren't supposed to be there. Before he could issue a command, a voice crackled through the ship's comm system. "This is Captain Volgar of the Iron Claw," the voice boomed. "You're in our territory now, Carrick. Hand over the artifact, or we'll take it by force. And don't think you can escape. We've got you surrounded." Carrick's stomach sank. The pirates had set the trap perfectly. They'd been waiting for them in the asteroid field, using the dense rocks to hide their fleet. Carrick knew there was no easy way out now. He turned to Jax, his hired human mercenary captain, who was already standing up, his eyes sharp and calculating. "Do we fight, or do we run?" Carrick asked, his voice tight with worry. Jax didn't even look at him. "We fight," he said simply, as if the answer was obvious. His crew, who had gathered around, nodded in agreement. "What's the plan?" Carrick asked, feeling a mixture of uncertainty and strange confidence. He'd never been in a situation like this before, and he didn't know what to expect from the humans. Jax grinned. "First, we make them think they've won. Then we hit them hard." The pirates didn't waste time. Within moments, several enemy ships moved into position, blocking the crystalline dawn from escaping. Weapons powered up, and Carrick's heart raced. The pirates weren't going to give them any chance to negotiate. They intended to take everything. Ava, the sniper, had already positioned herself on the outer deck. She aimed her weapon at one of the smaller pirate ships, calculating the best angle. "Ready when you are, Captain," she said over the comms, her voice calm and collected. Jax didn't hesitate. "Fire." Ava pulled the trigger. The shot was precise, and within seconds, the pirate ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The pirate fleet was thrown into chaos. The sudden attack took them by surprise. But it wasn't enough to stop them. The Iron Claw, the flagship of the pirate fleet, powered up its massive guns, locking onto the crystalline dawn. Carrick's heart skipped a beat. The pirates weren't giving up. The crystalline dawn was already heavily damaged from previous skirmishes, and he wasn't sure how much more the ship could take. But Jax wasn't worried. "Ray, get to the weapons bay. Sam, I need more power to the shields. Ava, keep picking them off," he ordered, his voice steady. Ray, the giant of a man, was already on his way to the weapons bay, moving like a bulldozer. He didn't need to be told twice. Sam, the engineer, was already working at the control panels, fingers flying over the buttons as he rerouted power to the ship's defenses. Ava continued her deadly work, picking off pirate ships one by one. Her sniper shots were perfect, hitting weak spots in their hulls and causing the ships to lose their stability. But despite the damage they were causing, the pirates were not retreating. They were closing in on the crystalline dawn, determined to board the ship and take it by force. Jack stood at the helm, his eyes locked onto the pirate flagship. "They want to fight. Let's give them one." The crystalline dawn suddenly veered to the left, catching the pirates off guard. The ship dove toward a nearby asteroid, using the large rock as cover. The pirates, following closely behind, didn't realize what Jax was planning. "Now," Jax shouted. As they came around the asteroid, the crystalline dawn fired a volley of missiles at the pirate ships, hitting several of them with devastating accuracy. The pirate fleet was forced to break formation, giving the humans a brief moment of relief. Carrick's heart raced as he watched the chaos unfold. The pirates were disorganized now, panicked by the unexpected counterattack. Jax had done it. He had thrown the pirates off balance, But Carrick knew this was only the beginning. The Iron Claw was still out there, and it was bigger and more powerful than anything the humans had to offer. But Jax didn't seem concerned. He turned to Carrick with a smirk. "We've got them right where we want them," he said. "Just trust me. They won't see what's coming next." The tension was thick in the air as the battle continued. Carrick couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. But for the first time since he'd hired the humans, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, these humans could pull off the impossible. The battle was far from over. The crystalline dawn had thrown the pirates into disarray, but their flagship, the Iron Claw, was still looming large, its guns aimed directly at them. Carrick could see the firepower they were up against. The Iron Claw was a fortress, and no matter how hard the humans tried, they couldn't destroy it from a distance. The pirates weren't backing down, and neither were the humans. Jax stood in front of the control panel, studying the layout of the pirate ships. His face was calm, but Carrick could see the concentration in his eyes. "We need a way to get close," Jax said. "We've got to disable the Iron Claw from the inside." "How?" Carrick asked, fear creeping into his voice. The Iron Claw was heavily armed, with layers of shields and armor. It was nearly impossible to penetrate. Jax turned to him with a smile that sent a chill down Carrick's spine. "We don't go through. We go around." Ava, the sniper, was already setting up on the outer deck. Her rifle was adjusted for long-range precision, but she wasn't aiming at the pirates this time. She was aiming at the asteroid field just ahead of them. The crystalline dawn veered towards the rocks, using them as cover once again. But this time, Jax had a new plan. The human engineer, Sam, was busy working in the engine room. He was running diagnostics, his hands moving quickly across the panels as he rerouted power. "I'm going to boost the engines to their limit," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "It won't last long, but it'll give us enough speed to close the gap." Jax nodded. "Make it count." Ray, the giant, had already strapped on his weapons and was preparing for a boarding mission. He was a man of few words, but his actions spoke louder than any speech. "Ready to board," he said, his deep voice like thunder. The plan was risky, but Jax was sure it would work. They would use the asteroid field to hide their movements. Then, at the right moment, they would power the crystalline dawn up to full speed. Ava's sniper shot would disable the pirate ship's weapons temporarily, and that would give them just enough time to board the Iron Claw and take the fight to the pirates directly. Everything fell into place. Sam worked quickly, and the engines roared to life with more power than they'd ever used before. The ship lurched forward, faster than Carrick had ever felt it move. The pirate ships were caught off guard, unable to react in time. Ava fired her shot, and a sudden explosion rocked one of the pirate ships, sending it spiraling into space. The pirates were distracted, but they quickly regained their bearings. "We've got our window," Jax shouted. "Ray, get to the airlock." Ray didn't need any more instruction. He was already on his way. The rest of the crew followed, running through the halls, moving faster than Carrick thought was possible. There was no time for hesitation. The airlock opened, and in a flash, Ray and the others were outside, moving towards the Iron Claw. The pirate ship loomed ahead, dark and foreboding, but they had no choice. Carrick watched through the viewing window as the humans began their boarding mission. He couldn't believe it. They were actually doing it. The pirates had underestimated them, and now they were paying the price. Inside the Iron Claw, the pirates were scrambling. The sudden attack had taken them by surprise, but now they were on high alert. The pirate leader, Captain Vulgar, cursed as his crew tried to regain control of the ship. He had been so sure of his victory, but now his enemies were inside his ship, fighting for control. Ray and the rest of the crew fought their way through the halls, moving quickly and efficiently. The pirates were fierce, but they weren't prepared for the human speed and ferocity. Ray swung a large weapon, knocking down any pirate who got in his way. Ava provided cover from above, picking off anyone who tried to retaliate. Sam hacked into the ship's systems, disabling the internal defenses, while Jax led the charge, cutting down pirates with precision. Carrick couldn't take his eyes off the scene. The humans were breaking all the rules. They didn't fight like traditional soldiers. They didn't follow the expected protocols. They just acted, and it was working. On the bridge of the Iron Claw, Captain Volger's face twisted in rage. He had underestimated the humans, and now they were in control of his ship. "We need to stop them," he shouted. "Prepare the self-destruct." Carrick knew they didn't have much time. If the pirates activated the self-destruct, everything would be lost. "Jax," he yelled into the comms, "you need to stop them now." Jax's voice crackled back. "Don't worry, Carrick. We're already on it." The part ended with Jax and his crew fighting their way to the control room of the Iron Claw, where the final battle for control was about to begin. Carrick had no idea what was coming, but one thing was clear. The humans weren't going to stop until they had won. The Iron Claw was on the brink of collapse. The humans had made their way through the ship, leaving chaos in their wake. Pirates were running in every direction, trying to mount a defense, but it was too late. Jax's crew had already taken control of key areas. The pirate ship was theirs for the taking. Carrick stood by the main console in the Iron Claw's bridge, his heart racing. Through the windows, he could see the massive battle unfolding outside. The crystalline dawn had held its ground against the smaller pirate ships, but the Iron Claw was still a beast, its guns locked on them. If the self-destruct sequence went off, the entire fleet would be lost. He glanced toward the hallway as the door slid open. Jax, looking more determined than ever, entered the room. "We've almost got it," Jax said, his voice steady despite the danger. Carrick's voice was tight with fear. "Almost. We're running out of time." Jax didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned toward the large control panel in the center of the bridge. The self-destruct countdown had already started. The countdown timer was flashing red, only 10 minutes left. The pressure was mounting, and Carrick could feel it in his chest. Meanwhile, on the lower levels of the Iron Claw, Ray was finishing off the last of the pirate resistance. His massive frame moved through the halls with a purpose, taking out pirates one after another. Ova provided sniper cover from above, her shots precise and deadly. The few pirates who had dared to resist were no match for the humans' teamwork and speed. Sam was already in the engine room, hacking into the systems to shut down the self-destruct mechanism. His fingers flew over the keyboard, and with a small sigh of relief, he sent a final command. "Done." Sam's voice crackled through the comms. "Self-destruct is offline. We've got it." Ray let out a short, satisfied grunt. "Nice work, Sam," he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. He turned to Ava, who was watching for any remaining threats. "Let's get to the control room. Jax will need us." Back on the bridge, Carrick was pacing, unable to stand still. The countdown timer continued to tick down, each second feeling like a lifetime. He could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. One wrong move, and everything would be lost. "Jax, please," Carrick pleaded. "We're running out of time. You said we would take the Iron Claw. We're so close, but if we don't stop the countdown, it'll all be over." Jax didn't look at him. He was completely focused on the task at hand. He had seen worse. He had been in tighter situations. The human captain was a survivor, and that made him dangerous. He wasn't going to let the pirates win. Not now. Not ever. "We're not done yet," Jax said firmly, his eyes fixed on the control panel. His hand hovered over a button. "Just a few more seconds, Carrick." Carrick swallowed hard. He wasn't sure if it was the fear or the desperation that was making his hands shake. This was their last chance. If Jax didn't succeed, they would all be dead. The door to the bridge opened again. Ray and Ava stepped inside, their faces grim but resolute. Ray's hands were already on the control panel, ready to assist Jax if needed. Ava stood near the door, watching the room carefully. Jax nodded at Ray. "You're just in time. I need you to help me override the final sequence." Ray didn't hesitate. His giant hands moved with precision, inputting commands alongside Jax. Carrick watched as the two of them worked together. A seamless partnership formed through necessity. Sam had shut down the self-destruct, but there was still one final safeguard that needed to be bypassed before the ship could be completely under their control. "Got it," Jax said after what felt like an eternity. He slammed his fist on the final key, and the countdown stopped. The Iron Claw was theirs. A roar of victory echoed through the bridge. The pirates, who had been scrambling to escape, now realized their defeat. Captain Volger's face turned a dark shade of red as he barked orders to his crew, but it was too late. The humans had won. Jax stepped back from the console, a grin spreading across his face. "That's how it's done," he said, his voice filled with satisfaction. Carrick could hardly believe it. The Iron Claw, the ship that had been terrorizing the galaxy for years, was now under their control. He turned to Jax, a mixture of admiration and disbelief in his eyes. "You did it. You really did it." Jax just shrugged. "We did it. All of us. That's what teamwork's about." Carrick couldn't argue with that. He had come to the humans with doubts, but now he was a believer. They had done the impossible. The pirate menace was over, and the crystalline dawn was safe. The artifact was secure. But Carrick knew one thing for sure. The humans had earned their place in the galaxy. And for once, he wasn't afraid to admit it.